Welcome to Change Happened, Then What? Where each week in Season 1 of the Friendship Chronicles, I share real-life stories from incredible people I've met over the past 20-plus years. Stories of change, challenge, and what comes next. These are the moments that shape them, the pivots that led to purpose, and the raw emotions in between. My hope is that these conversations inspire you, offer hope, and in the end, leave you with a smile. So, wherever you are, take a deep breath and let's dive in, because change happens, and that's where the story really begins. I'm your host, Heather Holt, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Hey friends, real quick, before we dive into this week's episode, I just want to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I honestly can't believe how fast this little podcast has grown already. So many of you have reached out to me and asked how you can support me on this journey, and truly, it means the world to me. And if I'm being honest, I'm not great at asking for help. So, you'll notice this is the first time I've ever put something like this at the top of an episode. So here goes. If you've been moved by any of these stories on this podcast, the best way to support me is by hitting follow wherever you listen, leaving a rating or a review, and sharing the show with someone who might need it. It makes a huge difference. Think of it like paying for your groceries at the store. Small action, big impact. And I am so grateful for every single one of you who come along for the ride. Okay, that's it. Thanks for being here. Let's get to today's story. Welcome back to Change Happened, Then What? This week, I want to introduce you to Sandie, a woman whose story has been with me for a long time now. Sandie and I became friends through a past marriage, and though we don't talk every day, she's the kind of person you know is always there. The kind of friend who, when you run into her, greets you with one of those big, warm hugs that makes time feel irrelevant. Her story is one of love, unimaginable loss, and the courage it takes to start again. It's about Brian, the man she thought would be her forever, and what happens when forever comes too soon.
We knew each other in high school. He was 2 years older than I was, the handsome one. He kind of did his thing and life happened. And then one day we ran into each other. I was with my girls waiting for their father to come have dinner with us, and he didn't show up. But I saw Brian, and he said, if you ever need anything, give me a call. Well, progress a couple months, I did need Brian to come fix a hole in my ceiling, because he did construction. So he came, fixed a hole in my ceiling, and a ton of other things in the house that hadn't gotten done. And we asked him to stay for dinner, me and my girls. They fell in love with him, and I fell in love with him pretty much that day. Oh, boy.
We pause for a moment as Sandie begins to unearth emotions she's kept buried for years. Speaking them out loud now is pulling her into a place she wasn't sure she was ready to revisit. However, she continues.
I didn't ever feel loved the way that I thought people should feel loved until I met Brian. What I felt with him, the comfort, the intense love right off the bat was like, we are meant to be together. And the fact that he included my girls in everything, and he knew that with me came my 3 girls, and he made all of us feel very important, very special. And so that's how we started. We had a great time together. No matter what we did, we could be driving up to the Northeast Kingdom for work together and just be laughing and enjoying ourselves and counting hawks. And we both loved nature and the forest and being outside. We just shared so many fun, cool connections. Oh, he made me smile. He made me happy. He made me put down a lot of my walls. He really got me out on the dance floor, had me doing, goofy things that I never thought I would do. Sledding in the dark, in the rain, down an ice slide. Yeah, we just did super fun things. It sounds like a teenager, but we just enjoyed being together. When we were together, we loved being together. And you could tell. You just could see the love between us.
You can hear it in her voice, how much joy Brian brought into her life and really into the lives of everyone around him. He was a part of my life too for years. I still remember the first time I met him. It was like I had known him forever. He had that kind of presence. He would do anything for anyone, no questions asked. He'd stopped everything to make sure I got the help I needed. And it wasn't just because he knew me. He treated everyone that way.
So he was my partner in life and my partner at work. And we were a freaking amazing team together. Just our communication was great. We got along well. We enjoyed what we did. We made work fun. And so it made our family life fun. When we worked together at the credit union, he didn't have one person that didn't just adore him. He would help every single person with anything they wanted. If they needed anything, Brian would do it happily with a smile. And he would go an extra mile to make sure that the person that asked him for help was cared for through to the end. And that I just loved that about him. I did. I loved his aloha spirit. He had the best smile ever.
He did.
Smile got me every time. Yeah, he was a worker. He just wanted to put himself for everybody. He wanted to help everybody and make everybody happy. He would take people under his wing. Even in the younger coworkers that we had, Brian made them feel cared for, like they had a big brother in their corner to cheer them on no matter what they were doing. If they were down, Brian was bringing them up. He was saying, he was always checking on everybody. Are you okay? Do you need this? Always, always. And there's still coworkers at the credit union that they just can't imagine life without him at that time because he just was. It was like, you need something? Ask Brian. He did it all.
As I spoke with Sandie, I realized just how many unexpected threads connected Brian and I. He got sick for the first time on my birthday with a fever of 105. None of us could have imagined what was coming, but that was the start. He had also experienced facial paralysis at one point in his life. And like me, his smile meant everything to him. That's what I always remembered most about him. His light, his warmth, what I always like to call his aloha spirit. He was Hawaiian, and his energy felt bigger than his body, welcoming, open, and full of life. So the first time I saw him after the illness had taken a hold, I knew that sparkle, that smile, that Brian we all knew was gone.
Oh, he woke up one day in 2016. He actually woke me up because he was burning up with a fever. And I said, boy, something's really wrong. You are sick. And I said, you can't come to work. Kind of didn't think anything of it. People get sick. It was November, he had been at camp, all sorts of stuff. So I went to work. I came home that night, and his temperature was 105. I freaked out, rushed him out to the hospital. He had fluid on his brain. At that point, they had to drain the fluid. It was awful. Noises coming from his room. I didn't know anything. So that was the first night, and then it was just a week of unknown. Where did this come from? What is happening? Is there still fluid on his brain? What has this done? And we really got no answers. They said, well, they put him, they monitored him for a week, and then they sent him home. And we thought, okay, he's still kind of Brian, but he's quiet. And it's just not Brian. So his son had come home, and we tried to be like normal, still doing normal things. We just tried to be normal, still didn't really know what was going on. He had a couple more doctor's appointments. They put him on a really high dose of prednisone to take down the swelling in his brain. And I think Brian was such a fighter and a worker. He worked so freaking hard. He was driving. Oh my God. I let him drive his mother. And I think I knew something was wrong. I was following him with the girls. We were going up there for Christmas. He had been sick, but I let him drive because he wasn't normal, but he was normal enough where, it was like, okay, life is going to get better. I had the worst nervous breakdown, the worst anxiety attack ever on that drive following him. I don't know if it was knowing what was to come, because the second Thanksgiving, I did bring Brian, and it was awful. By November 2017, he had gone downhill a lot. I had been to a specialist. I had brought him out to Utah. We had done some things, and we were in the midst of getting a second opinion. They diagnosed him with autoimmune encephalitis.
When Sandie told me the official diagnosis was autoimmune encephalitis, it started to make more sense, but it didn't make it any easier. She and Brian's mother both believe there may have been signs earlier in his life, swelling issues, Bell's palsy, things that maybe didn't raise alarms at the time, but in hindsight could have been the early whispers of something bigger. Autoimmune encephalitis is a rare and often misunderstood condition. It happens when the immune system, instead of protecting the brain, begins attacking it, causing inflammation that can lead to memory loss, confusion, personality changes, seizures, and in some cases, a heartbreaking shift in the very essence of who someone is.
I think what happened was whatever this swelling was occurring, it finally got to his brain. So I do think that it was coming. I think he had Bell's palsy when he was younger. His Bell's palsy had lasted well over a year, when normally it lasts 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so, his mother also thinks that something in his body finally just attacked it. He went into, he lived at the hospital for 7 months until we found a place for him to go. I had hired a full-time nurse by, I guess, so he had another episode November 2017. And so by then, his brain was gone. We had more MRIs, and I had sent my uncle some images to take a look at because we didn't know what was happening. We were going to Boston to have this really, like an infusion that was supposed to kind of kickstart his brain again, but it also could have killed him. Kalani and I had to make the decision, would he want to live like this for the rest of his life? Or would he want to try something? So we did. In 2018, he had a full-time nurse. My house was like a nursing home because he was incontinent and he couldn't hold anything. I still had work.
This part of Sandie's story was incredibly difficult for her to talk about. It was nearly 5 years of watching the man she planned to grow old with slowly slipping away. Despite cross-country trips in search of treatments and answers, despite doing everything humanly possible to bring Brian back to himself, nothing worked. And then, as if that wasn't heartbreaking enough, came COVID and a breast cancer diagnosis. With 3 teenage daughters who still needed their mom and a full-time job and a partner who needed constant care, Sandie was carrying more than most people could even imagine. And eventually, she had to make the unthinkable decision, the one no spouse ever wants to face, to place Brian in a long-term care facility, the place where he could receive the round-the-clock support he needed until the day he found his last breath.
He went to the nursing home when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was February 2020. Yeah, 4 years from onset to when he went full-time.
But even in the midst of all the heartbreak, all the weight, there were lessons. Not the kind you ask for, but the kind that change you forever. Because through it all, Sandie believes her family learned something deep about love, about strength, about what it really means to show up when everything else is falling apart. And here's what she shared with me.
Oh, it made us closer. It showed others the ability to have compassion with no matter who that person is, if they're family, and if you say that you love them, you make it work. That's what it showed my girls, that their mother is really strong, stronger than even she thought she was.
Brian is no longer in his physical body, and after walking such a painful road alongside him, Sandie shared that through the heartache, she believes Brian left her with a gift. And here's how she described that to me.
And I think Mark was a gift from Brian. I mean, I would have never seen Mark. I was with Brian's son. If they didn't know Mark, I would never have asked him to come and do the work for us. Mark drove me to the hospital in the evening so I didn't have to park my car when I would go in for my nightly check on Brian. I mean, that was 7 months that we did that. But I loved him, and I was going to continue, and there was no way I was going to give up on him. Never. I knew I would love Brian forever. And thank God Mark knew that, and he still loved me. He knew that Brian was always going to be a part of my life, and he was willing to accept it. I mean, Mark hired a hairdresser to go take care of Brian's hair while he was in the hospital. We had to learn how to love each other through a really weird situation. Yeah. And I knew once he accepted that situation that he must really love me to take this all on.
When I asked Sandie what keeps her smiling today, after everything she's been through, it's not surprising that her answer involves other people, because that's just who she is. Even after walking through fire, she's still finding joy and connection and showing up for others and being part of something bigger than her grief.
My biggest joy is to make other people happy. And my girls give me so much joy.
What a gift to know someone who has walked through so much and still chooses light, still chooses connection, and still chooses to smile. Sandie's story is one of unimaginable loss, yes, but also resilience, love, and the quiet courage it takes to keep going. If you're walking through grief right now, I hope you heard something in her story that made you feel a little less alone. Thank you for being here with me and with her. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.
There's always a reason to always choose joy. There's something deeper that the world can't destroy. Smile When you think you can't smile, get up and dance, smile. There's a bigger plan, the storm only lasts for a while. So smile.
If you found value in this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend, following the podcast, or leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more than you know, and I'm so grateful for your support. Our theme music is Smile by Sidewalk Prophets from their album, Things That Got Us Here. You can hear more from them at sidewalkprophets.com. Want to dive deeper into today's conversation? Visit changehappenpodcast.com for guest information, bonus content, and more. Have your own Then What moment you'd like to share? I'd love to hear it. Email me anytime at changepodcast@yahoo.com. Change Happened, Then What is written, edited, and produced by me, Heather Holt, at Holt Hill Studios, with the enthusiastic support of my 2 sidekicks, Waylon and Dalton. Until next time, take care of your heart and keep smiling.